Well, those figures released today again showing how difficult it is for young people and how they're bearing the brunt of our unemployment crisis. In the last 3 months of last year, 4 out of 10 young people, so between the ages of 25 and 34, were not employed. To put it perhaps more easily, nearly half of the people in that age group are not working. Kristal Duncan-Williams is the project lead at Youth Capital. Kristal, good afternoon to you. How difficult is it for a young person to find a job right now?
Extremely difficult, Stephen. I think we can talk about semantics of 0% here and one way up and one way down, but the reality is that it hasn't changed for young people. If you look at the trend over the last 10 years, we've ever seen a continued upward trajectory of the number of young people not in employment, education or training. And we're busy working on some analysis now, and we know that, up until the third quarter of last year, the jobs that had been created in the 8 years prior were actually all going to older working age population, so those older than 35, and these are the interesting numbers that we're starting to see from our analysis. And I think it's important to think about, when we're speaking about employment going up, that actually young people are at the back of the queue, and young black women are right at the back of the queue. And so what are we doing for those groups to really turn things around for them?
Why is it harder for young people than older people? Is it the old experience argument? Is there a difference in the education that different generations received? I mean, I realize it's a very contentious question.
Yeah, we were actually just speaking about this today at Youth Capital, and we think that, there are two things. What are the types of jobs that are being created? There's this idea about industrialization, and young people, they don't maybe want to do those kinds of jobs. I think there's globally, this isn't a South African thing. The jobs that are of interest to young people are different. Number one. Number two, we know that there's a big gap in mid-level management. So I think my sense is that the experience, argument, which comes up so many times, young people just don't leave school, even university, with basic workplace skills. And employers are often not in a place or not equipped to bridge that gap sufficiently. And so when they hire young people, they have a bad experience, and they'd rather just go with an older hire who they maybe need to onboard less, provide less training and mentorship for. But this is just kind of a cycle that then repeats itself. The more young people without the experience, nobody wants to give them the chance, they never get the experience, and then we're just never going to train up the next cohort of young people. And we really need to think about this as an investment in the future of this country. More than half of the working age population are youth, and if we don't get them into some form of earning pathway, we're setting ourselves up for disaster as a country.
Could it also just be that older people have jobs already, or they have connections? So experience is part of it, but they basically are doing what they've always done, and they move sort of slowly upwards maybe in a certain area, but they don't lose their job is the key point. What I'm trying to get to is the real question is that no new jobs are being created for young people. In the past, jobs for young people were being created all the time.
Exactly, and I think that goes to the broader macroeconomic issues, and our kind of response to the budget is that I think the Treasury's current approach is not creating an environment where the economy is growing in a way that really leads to job creation for young people. We need millions more new jobs than we are creating, as you say. And then even the jobs that do exist, young people lack those social connections. They lack the networks to find out where to apply, how to show up even if you get the job. And so all of these things act as barriers to young people. And the comment was just made before was on about, short-term work opportunities. We know that the presidential employment stimulus is creating these short-term opportunities, and they provide some work experience. But it's difficult for young people to keep their foothold once they get that first experience in the current economic situation where there just aren't jobs. And I think that's something we need to think about, investment in infrastructure as a country that allows young people to be more connected to opportunity and allows for an environment where, even if they want to hustle or create some kind of self-employment opportunities, that the environment is conducive for them to be able to do that.
Kristal, I hate to be so cynical about this, but I bet the young people who are getting jobs are the young people whose parents have the connections to get them that internship.
Absolutely. And, we see that all the time. Young people say it's about who you know, and I don't know anyone. And everybody in my street is not employed, so where must I get the jobs from? And I think even, all of us who are working can think about how we found out about so many of the work opportunities or study opportunities or bursary opportunities through somebody we knew. And the reality is for many young people in this country is that they know no one who can help them find those opportunities. The school you go to, the friends you have, all of this really feeds into your ability to even have opportunities visible to you, let alone being equipped with the skills to apply for the job.
Kristal Duncan-Williams, thank you, project lead at Youth Capital. Very sobering.